Samsung's S90 series has become the brand's Goldilocks OLED tier. Cheaper than the flagship S95 series, but far more capable than the entry-level S85. In 2024, that role was played by the S90D, a TV that stayed at the top of our charts for what seemed like forever. 12 months later, Samsung has swapped the final letter and launched the S90F. On paper, it looks like a mild refresh, a QD-OLED panel, the same 4 HDMI 2.1 ports, and the same 4K at 144Hz ceiling. But Samsung promises a brighter image, better processing, tighter HDR tone mapping, and some under-the-hood fixes for quirks that annoyed gamers last year. But does it truly make a difference? I'm Evan from Ratings.com. We've had both sets on the same rack, side by side, fighting it out, and the results are fascinating. Let's break it down. First, the headline spec, HDR brightness. In filmmaker mode, the S90F punches out roughly 1628 nits on a 2% window and 1426 nits on a 10% window. Side by side, the older S90D lands at about 1199 nits on the same 2% window and 1193 nits on the 10%. That's a sizable 30% advantage for the S90F, but in real content, the gap is harder to spot than what the numbers suggest. In small highlight shots, say a star in a dark frame, the F does pop a touch more. But in bright outdoor scenes, the two are remarkably close because Samsung's ABL ultimately reins them in at similar levels. Crucially, neither set dims much in game mode. Still, the F is a bit brighter, even if it's hard to spot. Gamers who love the brightest HDR possible will appreciate the subtle extra brightness, but for the rest of us, it's more a bragging rights bump than a day and night difference. Switch to daytime TV and SDR, and the roles reverse from what many expected after last year's measurements. Who could have predicted the big jump in SDR brightness on many OLEDs this year? The new S90F now averages about 450 nits in real scenes, whereas the S90D tops out at about 380 nits. The difference is obvious in a sunlit living room. Golf greens and talk show sets look punchier on the fresher model, and whites stay cleaner before washing out. It's still not quite at the same level as the LG C5, but the S90F is a noticeable improvement over the S90D here. When it comes to color volume, both TVs are nearly identical in HDR and SDR. If we were nitpicking, we'd say that the S90F is a bit better in HDR and the S90D is instead a bit better in SDR, but really, they're the same. Where they differ is in their image accuracy. For SDR pre-calibration accuracy, the S90F has the edge. Its color temperature is perfect. There are no noticeable color errors, and its white balance is excellent, even though all colors are overrepresented in the mid-grays. The S90D, not quite as good, even if it's still great. The TV is too cold out of the box, which we can see in its white balance as blues are slightly overrepresented in all grays. Color accuracy is solid, though its signs lean a bit towards blue. Nitpicking much? A bit, but the S90F is better here. Switching to HDR pre-calibration accuracy, well. Uno reverse. Here, the S90F is worse. Blues and reds are overrepresented in brighter grays, and the TV is a bit too cold overall. And we don't mean to the touch. There's also a fair amount of mapping errors throughout its color range, especially in the grays. Switching over to the S90D, and yes, the TV is still a little too cold, but its white balance is far better than the S90F's, and its colors are a bit more accurate. Overall, it's a tie. One wins in SDR, and the other in HDR. Either way, all of that can be fixed through calibration if it does bother you. When it comes to processing, the S90F has the new NQ4 AI Gen 3 chip on board, and it does nothing? Okay, we're sure it does something, it's just that in our tests, the two TVs are nearly identical in processing. Same low-quality content smoothing, same upscaling, and equally stellar HDR native gradient handling. One difference, though, is that the S90F applies edge enhancement to all content even when the sharpness slider is set to 0. It's a bit strange, although less aggressive in filmmaker mode. This sounds like an easy fix through a firmware update, but hey, what do we know? Where the new chip might be working its magic is in the TV's PQ-EOTF tracking, as the S90F is leagues above the S90D here. Look, the S90D was far from bad, but darker shadows and the midtones are a bit brighter than what they should be. The S90F, though, nearly perfect. Yes, some shadow details are a bit raised, but barely. This is an easy win for the S90F. Aside from that, processing is mostly unchanged, which is a bit of a bummer as Samsung is currently trailing Sony and LG on that front. Both sets keep Samsung's glossy, polarizer-free coating, so you know what that means. A slight pink hue in bright rooms. Otherwise, both TVs handle direct reflections very well. They're muted enough that lamps won't ruin movie night, but the price is the familiar pinkish tint and noticeable black level lift under strong ambient light. The S90F is neither better nor worse than the S90D here. If your room has windows opposite the screen, you'll still want blinds or bias lighting. Samsung continues to give gamers exactly what they want. 4 full bandwidth HDMI 2.1 ports, 4K at 144Hz VRR, sub 5 millisecond input lag at 120Hz and 144Hz, and rock solid pixel response times. The S90D stumbles only on that NVIDIA duplication quirk. Last year, we flagged an NVIDIA card issue on the S90D where frame rates above 120 frames per second duplicated the bottom edge of the picture. The S90F does not exhibit that issue, making it the safer bet for 144Hz PC gaming. Otherwise, both TVs feel lightning fast, and neither throttle HDR brightness in game mode to a noticeable degree. We love it. On the audio side of things, no change here. Each set carries a 2.1 channel 40-watt system that sounds fine for casual viewing, but lacks a deep bass. Samsung still emits Dolby Vision and DTS pass-through, so cinephiles with large Blu-ray libraries may frown. We don't love it either. The One Connect box remains exclusive to the flagship S95 series, so cables go straight into the chassis on both models. A note on quality control. Our launch batch S90D had a misaligned HDMI cover, and we've logged scattered reports of 77-inch power supply failures. Our S90F sample is mechanically flawless, but remember that this model also mixes QD-OLED and WOLED panels by size and region, as the 42, 48, and 83-inch models have WOLED panels, which should perform a bit worse than the QD-OLED models, especially when it comes to colors. As always, check the model code suffix. An FXZA in North America usually signals QD-OLED, and keep your return window in mind. If you're shopping for one of these TVs right now, Samsung has already started discounting the S90D as stock ages out. Street prices hover a few $100s below the shiny new S90F. You'll pay a premium for the F's brighter SDR punch, cleaner HDR brightness accuracy, and the fixed high frame rate bug. Whether that premium is worth it to you depends on how you actually use your TV. If your living room gets a lot of daylight, or if you spend afternoons gaming with the curtains open, the S90F's brighter SDR output and its immunity to the 144Hz NVIDIA hiccup makes it the smarter buy. In darkroom movie sessions, you won't see a dramatic brightness gap, but you may notice the slightly better PQ eOTF tracking that Samsung tweaked with the 2025 firmware. Conversely, if you calibrate your displays, watch most content after sunset, and love out-of-the-box color fidelity, the S90D remains a superb performer. And now it costs less. You'll give up a few hundred nits in the smallest HDR highlights and a handful of daytime nits, but you'll gain more neutral color, equally stellar gaming features, and the comfort of knowing you bought the TV that spent perhaps the longest time atop our recommendation lists of any TV in our history. Will the S90F repeat that feat? Come back next year, and we'll tell you. So, in short, the S90F for daytime punch and future-proof firmware, the S90D for value and color purity. Either way, you're getting Samsung's vivid QD OLED palette, razor-sharp motion, and best-in-class gaming connectivity. So pick the feature set that matters the most to you and enjoy the show. That's it for a comparison of the Samsung S90F and the Samsung S90D. Are you happy with the small upgrades of the S90F, or do you think these upgrades are a little too small to warrant ditching the S90D? Would you prefer to shop for LG's C5 instead? Let us know. Until next time, I'm Evan from Ratings.com, where we help you find the best products for your needs.
Like what we do and want to be part of it? Good news! We're looking to hire a new lead for our display team. Don't wait and apply today. The link is in the description below.